Hello and welcome to Varieties of Slice of Life, an otaku media podcast. As always, I am Anthony, and joining me today is lovely Zach.
Hello.
And Jarrett.
Salutations, Internet.
We are a bi-monthly podcast talking about games, anime, and a whole bunch of stuff. Today we're going to be talking about food animes. Not necessarily cooking, but probably mostly cooking.
Hope you're ready to slurp down these delicious animes.
With us, your maitre d's.
I am going to be the lad that is dining in, because I am not a food connoisseur, anime-wise.
Very uncultured.
I'm an action boy. Not hugely into food stuff. I do at some point want to watch Sweetness and Lightning from what you guys were saying about it in just earlier podcasts. I had it open in another tab, but I didn't realize Food Wars was 24 episodes long.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to give a brief mention because I know we're not going to talk about it because none of us watched it, but there is a action food shonen anime from Shonen Jump called Toriko. It's generally considered one of the more popular Shonen Jump IPs.
I am sad, but I saw 140 or 100 over 100 episodes. I was like, I can't do that in the amount of time we have.
But fun fact, there is a One Piece Dragon Ball Toriko crossover that's actually really good. Where it's the cast from all three shows going through this challenge where they have to like go through these obstacle course and then fight at the end. And it's just so hilariously dumb seeing all the characters interact. Frankie and Android 18 is quite possibly one of the funniest things ever.
That would be a pretty good interaction, actually.
Yeah.
So we are talking about sweetness and lightning.
Yeah.
as our appetizer.
Yes. First course.
Appetizer. Plate.
First plate.
Yeah.
Welcome to the all-you-can-eat buffet of information about fucking food anime.
Yeah.
The restaurant no one asked for, but we'll give it to you anyway.
What's you guys have talked about it before, but for those who haven't listened to previous episodes, what's Sweetness and Lightning about?
Do you want me to take over for this? At least from the beginning.
I mean, I can. I'm pretty good at kind of going over synopsises really fast. It's essentially about this single dad who his wife recently passed away, so he's trying to he's having trouble feeding his young daughter because she doesn't really like his food and he's not good at cooking until he gets invited to cook alongside one of the students at the school that he teaches. So then every episode the three of them just start making meals and stuff together. It's about the simplest way to describe that anime.
Yeah.
So it's just solely about them cooking, from what you're saying, and then bonding, obviously, but
Yeah, the bonding is... The relationships between all the characters is it's pleasant. It's a very lovely, wholesome anime. Sometimes you need, especially given current circumstances. Yeah, it's a lot of things that come up in food animes is that it's a lot of the food is the vehicle for better development of the characters. And Sweetness and Lightning definitely hits that really well. Because we get the relationship between not only, the father and his daughter, but then the daughter and the other girl, and then the dad and the other girl, as they all are learning lessons from each other. And then there's at least two other characters that get brought in. One of them is a friend of the girl, and then one of them is a friend of the dad, who works in a bar, I believe. I think that was his thing.
That's not a job I see a whole lot of people working in bars in anime. But
Bars don't get brought up a lot.
I do love the character design of that little girl, though. Her fucking hair is the best.
Yeah,
The-
Sugumi
the-
is adorable.
Yeah, the hair is good. She's got like the little like overall things, and the boots are quite possibly the most adorable thing ever. And they squeak. Like when she walks, there's a squeak sound that goes when she walks.
Oh, that's pretty cute.
For an anime of only 12 episodes, it's just fun. It's a very fun, enjoyable thing to watch. Like this is like it's one of those things that like you would sit down and either watch with a kid or you watch with your family, just because it's very nice.
It is like full length episodes though.
Full length episode, 24 minutes per.
Okay.
But there you go.
I'm just gonna say I like one of my favorite things about it is a thing I like when I see in any anime is that the main girl's Smugi is voiced by an actual child, and she does a really good job at it.
Child voice actors are notorious for being terrible to find.
Yeah, but like I always love seeing an anime where like they actually got like where it centers on a kid character that they actually managed to get a child actor for, though. Usually it's like a 13-year-old girl voicing a 10-year-old girl. And I don't really care about that. I mean, I imagine that's easier to do.
So, when it comes to the food aspect of it, like, how is that presented? Like, is it overtly like, hey, we're making this, and then they kind of do like an overview of what the food is, or is that kind of on the back burner for this? Or it's more about them cooking.
It's a little bit of that because they do like a lot of shows like kind of skip through the process, but they go a lot. I don't want to say in depth, but they show them doing the processes more. And I like how they go about this because it's not only the dad getting involved so that he can help make meals for his daughter, but the girl whose mom actually owns the restaurant and who's the one that's helping him, she is definitely afraid to use knives. Like anytime that they have to cut anything, she's looking away and she can't do it herself. So she needs him to help actually make these meals.
Yeah, she's a huge glutton, but she doesn't actually know how to make any food besides rice.
Yeah, which is the first meal that they end up having because they end up going to the restaurant. But the girl's mom keeps getting put on Japanese game shows because she's kind of a celebrity.
Oh, alright, that's...
Yeah. Like she's like a minor celebrity, but like she keeps getting put on like talk shows and game shows. Like in the final episode, the mom actually does show up and she's in a schoolgirl outfit.
Hey kids, I'm baby.
Yeah. And then the one girl who's Kotori, who's helping the dad, I can't pronounce that name, who's helping the dad learn these. She has a band-aid constantly on her finger.
I'm assuming
And
from
they-
knives, or...
They never bring it up. They never bring up why she has it. It's the only complaint I have about the show is that they never explain what goes on with that.
It's always a weird one when somebody has like a band-aid or a bandage that never comes off. It's just part of their character design.
Yeah.
If it's a kid, it's either on the leg, like near the knee, or on the nose constantly.
Yeah.
Or any karate guy always has the
The
band-aid.
nose one, yeah. Or on the forehead, like above the eyebrow.
Yeah. Or on the cheek. They'd be like, it's like diagonal off kilter on the cheek. Yeah, like I do. Like this one is like, I wouldn't say it's like dead center on the food. I would say it's like slightly off dead center. Because at the end of the day, it is like about the relationship between the dad and his daughter, and you see a lot of these moments play out because of the food, or because of the restaurant, or something related to the food, or him just trying to make a meal for his daughter. But it still comes up of the dad, trying to parent his kid. The kid's what, 4? 4 or something in this.
She seems young.
So it's a lot of still learning lessons.
So, Do they actually show you how to make recipes in this one, or is it just? Because I know that's a big thing with a lot of animes where they're like, "Oh yeah, this is how you make this" at the end of the episode.
Not. They do an okayish job. It's not the best. It's not like a step for step, but like they do. Because what ends up happening is the mom who actually owns the restaurant keeps leaving simplified, easy versions, recipes of how to do the food, and that's what they follow. So it's like even though the mom can't be there, she does keep helping them in that regard.
Yeah. Is this the anime that you guys are saying where the food actually looks like flawed? Like it doesn't look perfect?
Yeah, like so. Yeah, sometimes it's like they, like obviously it's so hard for them to do it because it's anime and like that's just how it is. But it is sometimes like a little bit flawed, and I think that makes it better because it's three people who don't know how to cooking. So
like nothing ever looks like Food Wars or like restaurant anime neat. It always looks homemade, but never like fancy homemade. It looks like it is there. It's together. It looks okayish. It looks like you did try and put time and effort into it, but it's the whole like you see someone make a cake on a video. You try and make that cake and it doesn't look 100%, but you tried. It's that level, but it still looks good.
Well, all right. How's the music and all that stuff in it?
I really like the intro. I can't remember the outro.
It's by Brian the Sun. Pretty good song called Maybe.
Yeah.
I love the opening so much. It's just so like addicting. It's got like the very childish energy of it, and it's just kind of fun because it's like Sumugi like flying through the air, riding like a stuffed animal. It's like just this like crazy like hyper childish song. Don't really remember the rest of the OST though. I usually never remember the actual OST to animes.
I mean, I don't feel like this one used a whole lot of not very pointed OSTs. Like it was nice background music for a show with a kid in it.
Well, all right. You guys want to move on to the next one? Let's talk about fucking. Actually, you could talk about the restaurant in Another World one because I've seen the first episode of that, first couple episodes of that.
Japanese food from another world or restaurant to another world?
Whatever one
very...
you showed me.
I showed you? Okay, so that would be izakaya, which is Japanese food from another world. Not to be confused with what's the other one, Zach?
Shokudo, restaurant to another world.
That one.
Very similar premise, but still very different.
Yeah, because I'll bring up izakaya a little bit because it's person owns a restaurant, except a traditional Japanese restaurant set in modern day, except for the front door to the restaurant opens up into a German medieval town city. That is the show, and it is making modern Japanese food and serving it to just medieval Germanic people.
It's a very weird concept, but I really like it.
Yeah. And everything, like, so much goes on in this restaurant that it is insane. Me and Zach have talked about the salad episode because that is just an amazing use of food to basically stop a political invasion.
Yeah, like yeah, you might have just like they might have accidentally stopped a war just by serving food.
Yeah. I love I think I said in the last one, like I love the gags that they keep going back to of the A good thing I ran out of this food, otherwise I would have kept eating it. But it's always like the small appetizer, like little, the equivalent to us having peanuts in the bar. For them, it's like edamame, or it's a bunch of other like fried vegetable stuff. They're like, oh, good thing we ran out of these. I would have been here forever. I couldn't stop eating.
So, okay, this is kind of an odd question because I'm not entirely sure. What is umami entirely?
It's like a flavor thing.
Yeah, I know it's like because it's like the 5 flavors, like sweetness, sour, salty, bitter, sweet,
Umami
and
is
umami.
Yeah, umami is something that gets brought up because it's almost like a mix of other things, because they said that like a lot of foods that contain umami are things like tomatoes, beef, red wine, a bunch of stuff that has tannins and stuff. It's an interesting thing to bring up.
Yeah, because I know that like Americans don't really consider umami a thing, but for some reason Japan does.
I'm not gonna say I don't consider it anything. It's just, for me,
I don't know
it's
how
just-
to pin it down personally.
I put it in a very simple, basic term of it's the thing that makes food taste good. Like basic seasoning, MSG, and stuff like that. It's just the stuff that makes food taste good, but it's inherently in food. It's like,
Okay.
if you eat beef will taste good.
I just wanted to see if you guys knew anything about that.
Yes.
But that show does have one of my favorite like bar jokes in an anime that I've seen, where the fucking "What's on tap."
Yeah.
What's on tap is a joke that's pretty much in every episode, and it's still my favorite thing because like they just don't understand the concept, so they just think that's what it's called. I love it. It's so funny.
And I feel like that'd be exactly how it would be if you brought modern day food back in time. Like, if you handed, some fucking 1400s child like a Hershey's bar, they would think that you're like some sort of god.
I mean, that's what I love is like just the implications of what this restaurant represents in this time period. Is like obviously there's the salad thing, which is like, to that guy it blew his absolute mind that this country is like a superpower just because of the salads that they served. Because like the implications of like how much like the stuff that you could grow back then. But then like, they do it with other things as well. Like I think at one point they point out the glass that the restaurant uses like would be super expensive.
Mm-hmm.
But to like obviously to the modern day Japanese people, it's nothing. It's just a window.
Yeah, and it's a really cool concept, and I like seeing that.
I believe like constantly they're like the people are surprised on how cheap everything is. Like they're expecting things to be like super expensive, and then they're like, oh, it's just a tiny bit.
Isn't it like gold coins though, or something like that? Because like I remember them, like the whole thing is that the currency is more expensive in modern day than it is back then, but to them it's super cheap.
Yeah, it's they use like what weird currency that they use in that world.
Yeah, isn't it fairly short? If I remember, is it 12 minutes, something like that?
24 episodes, 14 minutes is the average. But the show is like 7-ish, like 7 to 10 minutes long, and then the rest of it is one of the 3 end pieces that they put, which is either guy making similar food to what you saw in the episode, guy going to actual restaurants who serve the food that like what you saw in the episode, or there was a third one. What was the third one?
Man versus writer.
Remember, I don't remember what the third one was.
I don't even remember there being a third. I just remember the 2. But
Maybe
my my favorite thing is just the narrator in those. Like she it's like this like the most kindly old woman who's just like, and she's like always so enthused with what's happening. She's like, wow, wow, that looks delicious. Bless
So-
his soul.
How is the food look in like the rest of this?
Oh.
'Cause-
Oh god, it's amazing. Like,
Go ahead.
there's not a lot of food animes where the food looks bad, but
So, I mean, has this? It's a good question to ask. Actually, has there ever been like a food anime that made you want to make something out of it?
Well,
that is one of the ones we're going to talk about later. I actually encountered that very thought while I was watching one of those episodes. Like, I want to go make this because it was so easy. And like, I could just go make this right now.
there's something there's an anime I do want to talk about later in this episode that my only answer to that question from this anime is yes and no.
Oh, alright. Now I'm interested. Like most of the things in these, I would say yes. Is some of it is just like it's either finding the ingredients would be difficult or it's something I don't have. Because like I'm one of those people and I've gotten to the point now where like I just want to expand my food horizons. I want to eat something different.
Yeah, because like, typical American diet's a lot of beef, chicken, and pork.
I can't really get tired of chicken, but I'm getting burnt out on beef and pork again. I'm just like,
And like Japan's a lot of seafood, and a handful of other meats, but they're a main seafood like connoisseur.
I never actually looked into it, but like, is meat like really expensive in Japan?
I think so. I think because they either have to import it or the farming land is like really unavailable to like breed cows. Like America, we have fucking all of Texas to breed cows, so it's like super easy to get beef here. But I think beef is a bit more expensive there.
So I feel like I feel like it in every anime I've seen always has like a thing where like it's like, oh, I splurged and bought a bunch of meat so we can have like yakiniku or whatever, or hot pot, and it's just like, okay. And it's like, well, I guess that's hard to get. I mean, I guess that makes sense because like their country's not like our country's massive. Theirs is definitely not as big, and it's surrounded by a lot of ocean, and then like a lot of that, what they do use for farming is usually rice fields and such.
Preservable foods that you can grow multiple times.
yeah.
Because apparently, like, from small side tangent, apparently, like, land is very difficult to get in Japan nowadays. Just because people who have it don't want to give it up. Which, makes sense. It's very fine. We have states bigger than fucking Japan, so. But yeah, so bento is another one that you've brought up and that I've had to look into because we've talked about it on the podcast before, so I've had to look up pictures and stuff. Fucking bento is insane, and it's definitely on my watch list now because of what you guys have described.
Yeah, it is. It is definitely Keijo territory of absurdity, of good absurdity. Because with bento, it's basic premise of main character needs to join club at school, I think is how it starts.
I'm kind of joins the club because he gets interested in the hobby itself. He's in the hobby for a small bit before he even joins the club.
That's right.
Club is more of a secondary aspect of the whole thing.
Yeah. But it's an entire like culture and club about going to supermarkets at a specific, like roughly a specific time, and going and beating the ever living crap out of each other to get half price bentos.
Yeah, it's kind of like an underground fight club kind of thing. Like only those who are in it know about it. Like only those involved actually know about it, and like you just might happen to run into it and get jumped into the world like the main character. Like the main character had no idea. He just saw a half-priced bento and wanted it, and then next thing he knew, he was thrown into the world of these like fight clubs.
So bento just means what, like food box, more or less, for like the super uncultured.
Yeah, I don't know I actually never really seen the exact translation, but yeah, it's generally considered to just kind of be a sort of, you know, a lunchbox or something.
Yeah, bentos are very interesting. I appreciate the, like, what's the good word? I appreciate the, like, how much effort Japan puts into like their food and their presentation and all that stuff. You know, because Americans, you fucking go to school with like peanut butter sandwich and like a Go-Gurt, and that's about it. And you know, but in there, they seem to have a lot more just like a variety of a meal, where it's like they have some rice, they have like some kind of meat, you know, might have a vegetable or something along with that.
It's the better version of a mix between like a Lunchables for us and Hungry Man frozen dinners. But someone actually took time enough to actually make this thing and not just, you know, freeze it.
Yeah.
But bento, at least from the Chinese perspective or meaning for it, is useful thing and convenient, having a double meaning with it, standing for both the container and the content within the container. So it's a useful thing in a container.
Yeah, the Wikipedia article just describes it as a single portion takeout or home packed meal.
Yeah. So it's more or less an equivalent to a lunchbox for us, just compartmentalized and a much better design. I'll give it that.
Yeah, I will say that the design of the bento, because it's, you know, it has compartments for everything, and it's very refined compared to just, you know, Americans have just a box.
Yeah.
Also, I really learned about how bentos were truly like utilized from Dragon Maids. Do you remember the cook-off they had?
I'm trying to remember.
It was the main dragon lady versus it was the main dragon versus the owner, and they had to make a bento for Kana. It was just funny because they had to do it like course by course, and like Fafnir and shit was judging them. But yeah, I learned how like actually small those things are.
Yeah, I have a kind of cheap one lying around here that's only 2 compartments. It's a bottom one and then an upper one, and then the lid's on top of that.
I go to Aldi every weekend. I mean, I'm broken kayfabe a bit, but I have to mention this because it's funny. I go to Aldi every weekend, and they have like a little aisle of like weird, like just kind of like random things that they rotate like every couple of days. And one weekend I went and they had Minecraft bento boxes.
That's so weird. It's such a specific like audience you're trying to appeal towards.
So how could you break our kayfabe? We're nothing without our kayfabe. We must keep the illusion. The illusion that we're nerds.
No, that's always evident.
That's not gonna change. I mean, I can go to Walmart and still fucking talk about One Piece. Like that's not gonna stop me.
I'm pretty sure we've done that before. Oh god. Yeah. Anyways, back to
bento.
Yeah, back to bento a bit. It's a very peculiar like concept, but it's.
I feel like.
God.
I feel like it's the closest you can get to the absurd sports anime without it being a sports anime.
I just love it. Cause like I'm not like super into action, but I just love like the actual like just absurd nature of it all. Like just these characters fighting over this like super mundane and stupid thing. And there's so much like culture to it. Like wolves, the boar, like everybody's got these like weird nicknames and like these like unspoken rules that they all follow to a T. Just like it was like don't start until the labeler goes to the doors or whatever. It's always like little funny things like that.
I always love animes where the main character doesn't want to be in that thing necessarily. He just gets thrown into it and he's like, alright, I'm a part of this now, I guess. It's always so funny.
Yeah. there's like a couple episodes where like he joins these guys who are essentially like metagaming in a way. Like they have a strategy practically impossible to beat, and then he's like, you know what, this isn't fun. And then he like beats them so he can get lunch the hard way.
Yeah, the dogs, because their whole thing was the pack mentality. Because there was like the animals that they brought up were dogs, which were the people who just used packs. Wolves, who would just lone wolf it and go in on their own. The boar was one specific lady who just didn't give a shit about the rules, and she would constantly break them, and people would just go after her because she was massive in that too.
Yeah, she just rammed them with a buggy.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, I think they actually gave her boar noises too for it.
How many episodes is it?
Bento, I want to say it's 12. Check.
Not 12.
But I personally, from just what I've seen, I would recommend this anime. It seems very funny, and I'm definitely going to be watching it at some point.
I also love it because they have a very like Megumi from Food Wars-esque character, like the character who's like seems like who's just bad at pretty much everything, but she still somehow always wins. And it's like just this girl who she can't fight, but she always somehow like slips through everybody and still wins.
Yeah.
Like she's just this like small, like kind of like fidgety girl, but she just like the fact that she never gets like hurt is like the funniest thing.
The intro for that is pretty bumping.
Got the best eye catches too. Bento.
Is it multiple characters screaming, or is it the same character screaming it every time?
It's
well, bringing up Food Wars, might as well talk about that. We're 30 minutes in.
I'm gonna remind you that I have stuff too, and like Jarrett's list is the only
I don't
thing.
know why. Yeah, I was like, Zach is more.
I don't know. Yeah, bring it up whenever you want. I'm just trying to transition. I don't know any of these animes, so you guys have to work on the transitions by yourselves. By all means, what do you got next?
I mean, since we already talked about Japanese food from another world, we're gonna talk about the other one we were talking about, Restaurant to Another World, which very, very, very similar things. It's just said a bit about this guy who has a restaurant that for when he like at night he closes it up, and then he starts to run it into a fantasy world. Like the door will like my favorite thing is that the door just appears in like random places, but like it always leads to the restaurant. Like there are multiple doors that all lead to the restaurant.
Okay, so it's a different world every time. It's not the same.
No, it is the same world. It's just the door is in different places.
Oh, okay, I see. Okay, I got you.
Yeah, because isn't there that one tribe that like he buys rice for his like?
Yeah, I'm so glad you know that. That's one of my favorite things. There is a tribe of lizardmen who they send out like an envoy, and then like the envoy just goes in, buys 2 omelet rices, and then takes it to his village. Like Well, he eats one himself, and then he takes two for takeout to the village. It's so funny. Like I like the setup for the anime because like it's like less focused on the restaurant itself and more focused on the character's experience with the restaurant, where it starts with the character like discovering the restaurant and then their first experience there, and then they kind of become a reoccurring character for the rest of the anime, sort of similar to Japanese Food from Another World, where like the character will sometimes be seen like just hanging out.
Is it commonplace for characters to know too much about the food that they're eating, like in Food Wars?
Okay, so we're gonna bring on this trope.
Like, is that a trope? I genuinely have no idea.
I
don't know. That's the thing.
I know exactly what he's talking about. So in Food Wars is the best example that we're gonna have for this is when they eat something and they immediately start describing every little thing about that food, how he prepared it, where this weird ingredient came from, just a bunch of weird information that they have about this that
And
doesn't seem like you should know offhand.
that, and it doesn't matter who it is either. Like, it could be a fucking waiter, and they're like, "Oh my god, I know everything about this."
Well, I feel like Food Wars is cheating because like 80% of the characters who eat food in that anime are either some of the best chefs in the world or highly trained and professional critics.
Yeah, you're not wrong, but I did recently finish the egg episode, and then they had like the waiters that were all saying that shit. And I was like,
I mean, there are the weird
the standouts, but
I noticed something close to that, but it's at least they're very at least I don't want to say hyperbolic about it. They're very flowery and very not embellishing. They're very light with their words when it comes to stuff. Like their descriptors are just insane at times. Like if they don't go into I know everything about this dish and go into a weird explanation about everything, it's just their descriptor of how they feel while eating this, or some story that comes up, or some feeling like, oh, I feel like I'm in the ocean being caressed by the seaweed. That comes up a lot too.
Well, I feel like it's kind of a limitation of the medium because like the alternative is they bite the food. Hey, it's good.
it's pretty good.
And then the credits roll. Like you either go 0 or 100. There is it's impossible to have a middle ground.
I did find something that does both.
Ratatouille.
I'll talk about that one. No, I'll talk about that one in a bit.
But
How many episodes is the Restaurant to Another World?
12.
a lot of 12 one-offs.
Yeah. It's pretty fun. I like all the characters. A character they focus on a lot in the first episode is focused on her too. Is this like demon girl who is kind of like, because she's discriminated against, she's like homeless and stuff, but the guy who owns the restaurant hooks her up by letting her be his waitress.
Both shows pick up a homeless girl and make them their waitress. Interesting.
Japanese Food from Another World did that as well. That was just a really forgettable.
Yeah, it was towards the end. That's why she was like the assistant waitress for like 2 to 3 episodes, and she was just like a little girl. So,
did these episodes come out at the same time or something, or is it just?
I watched them around the same time. That's why I like these. They're both so cemented in my mind. Restaurant to Another was summer 2017.
And then Japanese Food from Another World came out in... I'm not on the ice, Brian. I'm not on the ice. We'll pass it. Yeah. Oh, there it is. And then Japanese Food from Another World came out in April 2018.
Still uncomfortably close to each other.
But like I said, I just like the setup because it's like you get to see the characters like discovering the restaurant, and then like they each have their own thing that they like. Like one character's like they discover, I think it was like, was it a fairy who got the parfait, and then like every episode they're in, they're eating like a different parfait. Like every character always like has a range of like one food that they end up eating a lot. Kind of like how the spy comes back in one episode and eats a salad and Japanese food from another world. These animes are so similar. It's insane.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think my favorite are either the what was I saying? The lizard man who gets the omelet rice, or the gladiator guy, because there's like a gladiator guy who he's forced to fight for his life in a gladiator arena, and then he discovers the door because the door appears in his cell, and then he gets a katsudon because katsu means victory, and the guy tells him about this whole thing like sports teams eat these because it like, you know, katsu means victory, so it gives you good luck. So then the guy eats the katsudon, wins, and then he just keeps, every time he comes he always gets the katsudon, and then even though he wins his freedom, he stays in the Coliseum to keep fighting just so he can keep eating katsudon and all that.
I will say this because I have actually had katsudon. I would go and fight for more katsudon. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh yeah, I've had chicken. I've had chicken katsu. So good. It's one of the best things I've ever eaten.
It's basically a fried chicken cutlet over rice, and it is so good. Like, you think, oh, that's simple, but when you get it good, it is amazing.
Oh, I'll have to try it. Apparently, if fucking people are willing to go into gladiatorial combat for that.
Oh, God, I can't forget. I forget what restaurant. Like there's a restaurant chain in America that actually serves it. I can't remember what that restaurant's called though.
Please don't let BP have changed.
It's Popeyes.
Well, so it's Chinese.
Come on, Jared.
Yeah. Well, speaking about Chinese food, that's my bad segue that I unintentionally did.
Got him.
I actually did find a Chinese anime that is about food.
You found
Hey,
two.
it's an isekai.
You found two of them.
Did I find two? What's the other one?
Cooking with Valkyries was also Chinese.
That's Chinese? Didn't say it.
Well, because you probably watched the Japanese dub.
You know what? Fair enough. But I am really bad with Chinese. Like, I thought I was bad at trying to read Japanese titles. I am even worse at trying to read Chinese. So I just found
can I guess from your list right here?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
Is it Wakako Zake?
No, it's not. It's adorable food goddess. Because I wasn't even gonna try with the.
I thought I didn't think you used the translated title. I thought you used the.
No, because it was, for my brain, I could not process any letters for it.
Breaking kayfabe again. Jarrett posted the list of things he wanted to talk about in the Discord. I should have done that as well. To type them all out, and I just have them all open in tabs.
Yeah, Ryan, good noodles, and try and work these things out.
I mean, side tangent. China oddly puts out a lot of really good content, but for some reason, none of it makes it over here. Like,
I wonder why.
They had a Adventure Time ripoff that was actually really good. But nobody really heard of it or watched it, but I ended up watching like a season of it. And it's pretty much just if Adventure Time was an anime. And it's really good. So like, don't sleep on Japan, people, or don't sleep on China. They make good content. They just don't make a lot of content for Westerners.
Yeah, South Korea's like South Korea's got a lot of stuff coming out too. I see a lot of manhwa and stuff in here. Actually, I forget that one anime I actually really like is from China. The I can't remember the name of it, but it's like the one about the girl and her brother. I forget that one. That one's Chinese all the time.
That's a lot of things. Just the girl and her brother. That's a lot of things.
Yeah, but it's like very evidently Chinese.
Oh, I remember what you're talking about.
Yeah, you watched me watch an episode of that because that was when I was at your house.
Yeah, I remember. Because I think we had that was in one of our seasonal specials, if I remember correctly.
The one we recorded.
Oh, yeah, I know. Okay, yeah, now I remember. I think wasn't the one that was like a continuation season or something of that show. Yeah,
Yeah, actually, to date this episode, the third season just started in this season.
Hey, there you go.
So if we actually do a seasonal special this time, I'm gonna be talking about it again.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, but adorable food goddess. Not what I was expecting. I was not expecting it to be an isekai when I started out.
Easy Sakai.
I did not finish it. I watched a few episodes. I am going to go finish it because I am actually enjoying it. It's not what I expected at all because it's usual isekai-ness of girl is in modern world, girl dies, she made a thing of soup, threw in a mushroom and pufferfish, and apparently the mushroom set off the toxins in the pufferfish, I guess. So she dies. Apparently at the same time, they have not confirmed whether it is another world or if it's back in time. But someone else who looks just like her also dies by she slams her head into a pillar.
Alright.
So when she ends up like going to cross over, she gets put into the other person's body. So now she's in like traditional looking China, and she's going to get pushed off to go get married when the caravan's attacked by bandits and she's kidnapped by the bandits and immediately basically married off to what they call the third master, who's just a very stoic bandit lord. He's obviously the other main character that's going to be in the show, and he's just, you know, your stoic looking normal anime character who's, her first reaction to him is hilarious because she goes to break a pot over his head, and as soon as he turns around she's like, oh no, he's hot.
Oh no, he's hot.
Yeah, exactly. And she's like, wait, no, he's a bandit lord. He's gonna be a jerk. He's gonna be a douchebag. He's perfect. Then he just kind of semi-treats her nicely. Like, he's very, like, almost non-caring, but he's very nonchalant about everything. And so she ends up going like, well, I'm hungry. So he takes her to the kitchen. She, of course, being a chef, because why wouldn't she be a chef, makes delicious-looking food. He has some, and this is the show where I said they pulled off both the it's good and the interesting description, because for him, to her, he just goes, oh, it's good. But in his inner monologue, he's going into a whole crazy detail of how it's making him feel and everything.
So I like these tags. It's romance and shoujo. I usually don't like shoujo animes, but like I feel like this one won't be. This one actually seems like it would probably be a good shoujo.
Which one was sojo or shoujo?
It's marketed towards young girls, and they tend to be pretty bad. Like they're either really bad or really, really good. That's at least my experiences with them.
The only weird thing I only got a couple episodes in. The only weird thing I noticed is that like the kitchen equipment like is very old and rustic, but it still looks so clean and almost new. And the food looks really good. I'll give them that. The food animation and some of the prepping, like the chopping and stuff, is good. Some of it's very anime. Like it's like she does like one cut and then we'll do the black screen with a bunch of slices through the screen, and then the food's cut up. But the food always ends up looking delicious, and her currently trying to couple with the fact that she's basically going to get forced to be married to a bandit lord, but the bandit lord's kind of cool, is interesting.
That's an
interesting thing, though.
It's a weird premise.
Yeah, it's so far is interesting. But from the synopsis, it says that she ultimately wants to end up running her own restaurant, even in this world. So I look forward to seeing where that goes.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to ask, so does this show or the other ones, do they run into that problem that I kind of have with Food Wars, where like the food is prepared unreasonably fast?
Not in this one. Like they don't say it takes like no time at all. They just like it. You can tell that time passes in it, because like it's outdoors and stuff, so you can tell that there's like light changes. They don't say like she's incredibly fast or anything, so it doesn't seem like there's that it's incredibly fast thing going on.
Yeah. Because that's kind of one of the problems I have with like Food Wars is they're like, okay, yeah, you have 2 hours. All right, here's your food.
I mean, to be fair, I watch cooking shows all the time. It's plausible. Some of these are outrageous. I will give you that. Food Wars, some of them are absolutely outrageous.
Takes me 40 minutes. Chicken corn on blue.
I'm impressed that you're making chicken corn on blue.
I'm not making chicken corn on blue. I'm preparing a chicken corn on blue.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So,
Never put in blocks.
Oh, yeah, one last thing with the adorable food goddess. The outro visuals are very interesting because it's all of the fantasy characters, or all the old, all the other characters who aren't from the modern world. It's them, but in a modern setting. So like one's like a greaser, the bunch of other ones are like businessmen. It's just transferring through all the characters, just modernizing them. And I'm like, that's interesting. That's something this is normally stuff you see like fan art of just like someone modernizing modern UA and characters.
I love that kind of stuff. Shonen Jump does that a lot with like their kind of stuff. I'm less a fan of it.
I was about to say, because Bleach did that with one of their outros where they did that exact thing where they just put everybody in like a 1940s New York, and it was so fucking sick. Like I would love a show spin off about that. So how would you rate like music and all that shit about it?
I would say it's definitely not bad. I wouldn't say it's like anything super remarkable though. Cause I can't honestly remember a whole lot. Like,
yeah, I don't think China cares as much about the like openings and endings as Japan does. Because again, you're gonna run into like some kind of cultural divides when it comes to directing, acting, and what have you.
I will say the intro is very light and uplifting, so it's kind of a vibe that I like, but it's nothing super crazy.
Mm.
Yeah, I was just now listening to it. I'm like, oh, okay, I know, I do kind of like this, but it's not like breaking the mold or anything.
Well, all right.
Actually, just because of that, I actually have one I kind of want to talk about because it's kind of similar in a way. What is it? Kakario Bed and Breakfast for Spirits. It's about this girl who, when she could see spirits because, like, she could see yokai and stuff because when she was young, she almost starved to death, and then a yokai like fed her. So she now has the ability to see yokai, and then she feeds this like random guy who looked hungry. She just gives him like a bento because she's pretty good at cooking. She learned how to cook for herself, and then eventually, like shortly after that, she ends up getting abducted and taken to the spirit world, and she's like kind of forced into a marriage with that guy who turns out to be this like super like high up ogre who runs a bed and breakfast, and like one of the biggest bed and breakfasts in the spirit world. But she doesn't want to marry him, so they're like, well, if you want to stay here, like, we're not going to take you back, so if you're going to stay here, you got to find a way to make, work out your own stuff. So she opens up a like, there's like a rundown restaurant on the grounds. So she opens that back up and starts like running it herself.
It's
like the
interesting premise.
Yeah, it's just a nice little thing of like her like, it's not like super focused on the food, but like it's very focused on her like, like working through this restaurant, like upgrading it, like getting more like people to actually like care about it, so she can actually like make a living in this spirit world without having to be forced to marry this guy.
So,
Of course, it's romance, so it feels like that's probably how it's going to end, even though I really don't want it to be.
so when Japan has like a lot of like festivals, especially towards like the end of the year and shit, and usually that involves people making like more traditional foods, or just getting like very, because like I heard that like a lot of people eat very specific things depending on the time of year. Like Gallon Dino had that the New Year's soup thing.
Oh, my stomach.
God, I gotta watch the rest of Gallon Dino at some point.
And I never finished it.
But you know, I always love that. I love like holiday special episodes like that are not and like Bleach has a really good one where everyone gets together and they all make like some food and shit at one of the characters like shops, and it's just a really good like wholesome experience.
There's a lot of weird food things like that. Like for like weddings, there's like you eat like red rice.
Really?
Yeah. And then New Year's got like their a lot of their own things like mochi and stuff.
I love mochi. Dangerous way to make it, but love it.
Yeah, put your hand in this thing and mold it while I slam a hammer. Make sure you time it well, or I'm gonna break your hand.
Hundreds of people die in mochi accidents every year.
God, I'm in.
That's a good isekai or something like that. I lost my hand in a mochi accident. Now I'm in another world.
Mochi got me into this world, and Mochi will get me out of this one.
Yeah, it's but anyway, yeah, going back a little bit, like the festival food is always something that I wanted to try. Like, so they get the kebab-esque things.
Oh, okay. Well, no, Koyami.
I forget.
Green octopus balls.
Yeah.
Crap. I usually know that one, but it's slipping my mind right now.
The tea.
A takoyaki. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not to be confused with taiyaki, which is something else.
Yeah. But like I always thought that those seemed very, good, and I always wanted to try them. But because as Americans, we don't have a lot of seafood options that are non-traditional foods.
I mean, at least with takoyaki, you can make them with you can make them in there is a pan that Americans use that we can use to make takoyaki, like the little like circular ones. I forget what they're actually used for here, typically.
Yeah, I vaguely know what you're talking about, but yeah, I know which ones you're talking about for the Japan ones, but I kind of know which ones you're talking about for America.
I think I had one that was like that, but it was used to make cake pops.
Yeah, that's one of the things they tend to be used for, but they can. I've heard that those can make you can use takoyaki for that, or yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So it's just like octopus and like batter and stuff. I mean, it has like a sauce, but I imagine that's probably not too hard to make.
Yeah. A lot of the times it's just Japanese mayonnaise. Which I need to find. I actually know a place that just sells like Japanese mayo and just at like regular food stores. So I should go get it because I think Japanese mayo is lighter than like our mayonnaise that we get from the store.
No idea.
I think it's supposed to be lighter, or more liquidous, but not quite. It's a very soft mayo.
So, I guess, yeah, next one you guys want to talk about?
Hungry.
See, I ate dinner before we recorded this. So
I did too. That's the sad thing.
breaking the thing again.
Like, I mean, I didn't eat much, and even that, it was really disgusting. So, luckily, I have a very small appetite.
that's one thing.
Yeah.
If we do ever go to Japan, I'm very excited to try like the street food and shit.
Oh, I know.
Me or you, Jared? Who wants to take the next one? Back to you or me again?
I get a really short one.
All right.
Literally, because each episode is 2 minutes and 30 seconds of it is the intro.
Feel like that.
One Piece.
Yeah,
be
that's-
like.
I guess before I get into that, I have the whole, because we talked about this slightly earlier off podcast, but the something I know specifically with animes based around foods is some weird just notions I found. Episode counts come in one of two flavors. It's either an exorbitantly large amount of episodes with normal run times, or it's a very small amount of episodes with very short run times. Like that one anime that we were talking about earlier that was very action-packed. Yeah, 100-something episodes. There's an entire anime about bread that's 69 episodes.
The fuck can you talk about bread for so long?
I don't know. I've seen a clip of that, and it's like they eat bread, and then they become astronauts as they talk about the bread. it's like Shokugeki no Soma, like levels of like weird on how they describe this bread.
That's yeah, that's weird.
It's like it's the OG Food Wars, but only about bread.
Bread wars.
I don't like
Shows that are,
prequel.
then you have shows that are like sub 5-minute long episodes, or they're just spin-offs of other popular animes that already exist.
Yeah, the Fate one that you brought up was weird to me.
Yeah, like I was not expecting to find a Fate Stay Night spin-off that's all about cooking. I didn't watch it. I'm sad I didn't get to watch it because I fell behind. But
Is it specifically Fate Stay Night, or is it?
that's what came up for the related to. Like it was specifically that one. That was the one that kept popping up. And then there's one for
Tell the difference between all the Fate states. There's like a million of them.
yeah. Then there's it is Valkyrie Chronicles, right? Or it's
Love
No,
Valkyrie Crap.
cooking with Valkyries. It's the one.
but it's tied to another series.
Oh no, it's like Yokai Impact. It's like Hokai Impact 3rd.
3. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Like Honkai because it's HONKAI Impact
Bonkai.
3. Yeah, I don't know. I
So
think
they're
it's a mobile game, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like a Chinese mobile game. I think it was on PC as well. I don't remember. It's definitely not Valkyrie
you-
Chronicles because that's a game about World War One.
You don't know that. Yeah, but then you have spin-offs like cooking show spin-offs of shows like that, but then you have things like Wakako Zake, which is 2 minutes long, a 30-second intro of just the main character Wakako going to all these different restaurants and just in a way like showing you how to eat the food, like what the food pairs with. A lot of time it's beer or sake, or it's cold or hot sake, and then just the experiences of these kinds of foods, because she talks about everything from like just simple like fried vegetables to like an entire fish that she remembers eating in college with just everyone else, but now she's like, oh, I get to have this all to myself because I'm the only one eating here. What's interesting about that show is that her design is so different from
Yes,
everyone else.
I have it copy pasted because I wanted to show Anthony this like ridiculous character design because I found that because I looked up the anime.
Oh.
I love this.
Yeah. That is her design. She looks nothing else like any other character. Every other character looks relatively normal person dimensions to anime standards.
That's pretty funny.
But she looks like that. I can only my brain can only process her facial expression and her hair as squirrel.
Yeah.
like
It's-
all that just kept popping out when I kept watching these.
I
but-
get ghost, but it's just because of the swirl in the hair.
See, the swirl made me think swirl.
So you brought up hot and cold sake. It, it can be served both ways, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's a thing.
She literally, like, one episode she's drinking ice cold sake, in which what was weird to me was that they had so it's a bowl that had another container in it, but both containers had ice cold sake in them. So they were using cold sake to keep the other sake cold.
Because
It was
like,
like,
the Kroger next to my house, they actually have bottles of decent brand sake. I've been thinking about getting them, and I was like, well, is that a cold drink or is that a hot drink? Because I've seen both. Like Bleach, one character prefers his sake always warm, and the other one wants his cold.
I see a lot in anime and stuff of like they will like like I've seen them put like a what do you call it, a pot on the stove, and then they'll like have it on a low temp and then just keep the sake in the pot to like keep the sake like kind of warm.
Oh, the other good thing that gets brought up in every episode is her exhaling like the hot food. Like it's her like content moment of the episode where she's just exhaling very interestingly, and it's always like "fashoo" is like the sound effect, and she's just making the "fashoo."
Yeah, I could see that. With that character design, I could see that.
Like it's always adorable. It's always something different. Like the same vein. The food looks really good in this. Like I'm watching I'm literally watching the fried chicken episode right now, and the fried chicken looks amazing looking.
Speaking of fried chicken, let's talk about the first season of Food Wars.
That's a transition.
I got whiplash for that transition.
Yeah, you recommended me Food Wars forever ago, and I'm finally watching it. I'm actually binge watching it pretty hard. It's an experience, I will say. Is that probably the most mainstream food show currently?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah,
Like,
I would. Yeah.
like you either get like the bread one that's like the bread one's considered like a cult classic, but like Shokugeki no Soma, I mean, it's Shonen Jump, and Shonen Jumps tend to be really, really popular.
Yeah.
Especially when they can get multiple seasons. Like Shokugeki no Soma's at like what 4 or 5 now.
It is at 5 currently. I think the 5th one is airing or it just finished.
Yeah, it was like very, very recent. They're very hot off the heels of the 4th one as well.
Yeah.
that
Kinda
was
interesting how-
because I think I told Anthony, I was like, yeah, I think the 4th season just wrapped up, and then like an hour later, I looked at like, oh, the 5th season is like wrapping up. What the?
Yeah, when you told me that, I was like, oh yeah, the 4th season did just end because that was on one of the lists that I was looking at some point. I'm like, oh no, 5th season just... I was like,
Yeah.
alright. But it's very interesting, but it's very repetitive. And that's my only problem with it.
Sounds like Shonen Jump.
Yeah. It's like you can only
Ooh,
watch
kill 'em.
you can only watch so much shonen before it just becomes a like infinite well of the same thing but more stakes.
The only thing that kept me going through a lot of Food Wars was just the interesting characters that they would keep bringing in.
Mimi
And
is
some of that
best
food
girl.
was just, yep, yes. I'm still sad you haven't gone to her like interesting character development later on. It's like what they do with her character as the seasons go on, at least up through what I watched season 3. Yeah, I watched up through season 3.
What character are you talking about?
Mimi.
Yeah, I thought so. I love the fact that her name is like actually shredded meat. It's like Nikumi, and like
Yeah.
that's just meat.
Yeah.
I love
Well,
the
that she gets
whole
that.
grade 5 beef thing that she keeps bringing up. It's so fucking funny.
Yeah.
In her first like food battle, it's the funniest shit because she's like jumping around a slab of meat and just making random cuts, and then it cuts over to Megami and she's like, oh my god, she's making such precise cuts, and it's like, no, she's fucking not. She's just fucking stabbing this thing. Like, oh, it's so funny. I love it though.
Yeah, I have a especially soft spot for Shokugeki no Soma because I have some deep nostalgia for it, which is a weird thing to say because it's not like that old.
2016
But
was first season.
yeah, goddamn.
2015 first season actually.
But
For America, I think it's 2016.
yeah, because I was still in high school at the time, and I would wake up on Saturday morning, and then I would microwave some pizza rolls, and then watch Shokugeki no Soma, and like that was just like a blissful experience, like those Saturday mornings.
You, Zach, turned me on to probably one of the best things I've discovered from anime, which is listening to Spice while cooking.
Yeah, I remember I told Jared about that because I told Jared that I like every time I would make I used to like to make egg sandwiches, and then every time I would make them, I would listen to the first opening and first ending of Shokugeki no Soma, and I told Jared about that. I was like, man, that's an experience right there.
Yeah, Spice is the first ending for it. It's run for the first 14 episodes. It's just so light and nice.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's very slow. The music, it's weird. The music for the show is almost too good for what it is.
Yeah. I said earlier in this episode that I don't really tend to notice OSTs. Shokugeki no Soma is my one exception because Shokugeki no Soma has one song I absolutely love to the point where I think I've actually like saved it somewhere because I just really like the song.
Yeah, I've saved Spice to my phone. I have the opening, but I go hot and cold on the opening, the first opening. Sexy Curry though always throws me off when I listen to it. When I'm watching it, I'm just like, what?
It's even weirder when you listen to the whole thing because like it's like tonally all over the place. But I don't mean the openings and endings. I have all the openings and endings. I mean the actual straight up OST, like the music that plays during the episode. They have one song that is like so good. I wonder if I can.
Is it the one with the piano riff?
Yes.
Yeah,
like
the
very like lighthearted kind of sounding one.
Is that the one that they use for the turnaround? Like when the main character's about to start doing something and winning, more or less?
I think so.
Yeah, alright. I kind of figured it was that one, but I was like, it's just to make sure. Yeah, that's a really good one. It's like almost the You Say Run of that show.
Yeah. That or the
It's called The Secret Ingredient Called Victory.
That's pretty good. I really like there's like three things that I really love about this show. Is I love the fact that the sexuality of the like food being eaten and like how the characters are presented is not exclusive to anybody. Like it's men, women, old, young, fat, skinny. Like it's fucking anybody.
Yeah, it's like not. Yeah, it's not only women. Like they go all in. Like very very diverse too. They have a couple of like characters of color and stuff. Like some of the judges later on.
Cabbage Magical Girls sequence.
Oh my god, the Cabbage Magical Girl, I fucking lost it. When the giant buff guy was a Cabbage Magic Pink.
You haven't seen the freaking when the stand battle.
Oh, I've seen clips of the scallop and shrimp one, yeah.
I love it. It's like
It's so good. They have a couple references because there was an earlier JoJo one where the seventh seat guy was dreaming. No, that wasn't a JoJo reference. That was a fucking Fist of the North Star reference. But
Oh yeah.
they got some good references, I will say.
Yeah, That's what I love about. I love when Shonen Jump can just get away with like referencing other Shonen Jump properties.
I can't wait because I don't. You didn't finish season 1, right?
I'm really close, but no, I haven't finished it.
I can't wait till you get to the part where, like, I think it's either the end of season 1 or it's the start of season 2, when everyone, it's like the individual tournament thing, and it's everyone like starts showing off the thing of food that they're known for and how crazy specific some of them get.
I've seen the cinnamon guy like a couple times, so I'm figuring he's gonna be one of them.
What was his name? Oh, what was his name? Oh yeah, Akira. Yeah, I like Akira.
I just like his own little his like little group, but like they end up grouping him with Alice, and I just really like that the whole dynamic of that group.
I love the teacher that he's with.
It's a fun one.
She's great.
Oh, I also love the world of Food Wars because it's like food is the end all be all in this universe.
Yeah.
I love the school. Like I just love this hyper specialized like mega school that had like it's so like hard for like if you mess up a little bit you're just expelled.
And they got that fucking thing that you and I love where the school council has more authority than any adult.
Oh
Yeah.
god, you haven't even gotten to the later seasons where they get like really dumb. Like
Yeah.
it becomes so anime towards like the third season. Like it's so ridiculous, like anime with like what they do.
I'm looking forward to it.
I do have to say, Megami episodes actually do bring me slight anxiety. Even though I know probably how it's going to end, I'm just like, you can do it. You can do it.
Yeah, that's what I love about her. She's very evidently the weakest character. That's why it's like the most interesting to see her because she struggles the hardest.
Oh yeah, like the food battle against the graduated student. I like that because he's like, oh yeah, you're not in charge. She is this battle, so have fun.
So it's just like, ah,
Fuck.
Yeah. There's like reasonably no reason why she hasn't gotten expelled yet. Like she like definitely should have, but like, I mean, I guess I like it for the comedy because she's really funny. I like everybody from the dorm. They're all good characters.
I'm kind of sad though that she doesn't have a super thick American Southern accent, though the rest of her town does.
yeah.
Oh, it's so I love that so much.
Yeah. Like anytime like there's like, oh, this character's from Osaka, give him a Texas accent.
Hello.
Oh, I'll miss you right then there. It's like, all right.
Awesome Dayo and Keijo.
So many. Bleach does it at some point. Like, fucking... I don't know why they just did, like... Somebody one day just decided, oh, fuck, we gotta give them a slightly different accent. Alright, just make an American Southern. And then just they rolled with that.
I feel like that's just a dub thing. That can only, I feel, be a dub thing. Southern Japan must be our Southern.
I mean, like, I guess localization wise, it logically makes sense because that is their like Osaka is their like country bumpkin-esque like accent.
Yeah.
And that's why it tends to be like Texan drawl and like that kind of stuff. Like it's funny in a dumb way, but I guess logically, I guess it makes sense.
Yeah, it's the best way of interpreting it as, you know, an English speaker. I can only imagine being like a British person, and that'd be like a whole another level on top of that, being like, all right, this is.
They didn't it.
That's kind of another one of the few problems I have with it is they're like rules with accents make no sense in the show. Like, you have the two Italian brothers who don't have any Italian accent whatsoever, but then you have the French, like, teacher. who's got like super like, oh, I am French, you know.
Yeah.
That might, I mean, again, this might just be like a dub problem, but it's, I don't know. I like most
I
of the
just
characters in
feel
this
like
stuff.
they don't want to give a main character a really, really dumb, thick accent. But like a one-off side character is all right.
Yeah. Oh, but I love fucking Susie Q from Part 2. It's my favorite bad accent. But like I really love how I like how the show visualizes the food, and I like how the characters describe it, even though it's like so exaggerated, and the like ending of how they describe it when it just shows the picture of them in the embrace of the food in some way, like
Yeah.
when Megami was eating like the apple risotto and she was like being held by like an apple prince and she was in a Snow White costume.
Yeah.
It's,
I just realized what like something that's very Shokugeki no someone like Senran and Kagura Bon Appetit.
oh my god.
If you like essentially the person who wins the round, it will have like the guy who's the judge, which is the main girl's grandpa. It will be him like sort of embellishing the food in like a crazy way. It'll be something like that. I forget one of them. Like one of them's like really weird, and he just like grows boobs or whatever. It's such a dumb game. It's
I love that game so much.
it's so underrated. It's so freaking funny.
But yeah, another one of the problems is the food is instantly made some of the time. They're like, oh, hold on, I'll be right back, and then he comes back with like this thing that he definitely had to bake it, and it definitely took more than like an hour. But the characters are in the exact same spot and have been doing nothing the entire time.
My favorite is when they like somehow pull something out of the oven that like no one ever
No one
really
noticed.
up to that point. It's like, whoa, they had an entirely different thing.
Wait a minute. What's he pulling out of the oven? I didn't see him put that in. When did he have time to put that in?
Yeah, that, and then like the whole thing of like, oh, he made this. It's not gonna be good. It's a different thing.
Yeah, I remember I was talking to Anthony about this earlier, that Sokugeki no Soma always breaks down and it's like, ha, you made this food? And then they bite it. It's like, whoa, it has other food in it.
This is food pretending to be other food. What sorcery is this?
And like,
Or
Go
or
ahead.
another one where it's like they eat food. It's like, hey, this food's really good. Ha, add the sauce. It's like the sauce can't add that much. It adds so much.
It completely changes the flavor profile of the
Uh,
rice.
And it's like, don't get me wrong, yeah, food does work like that some of the time, but it's never that extreme.
Food Wars only works at extremes.
That and
It's
like
awesome.
the egg tournament kind of pissed me off, because I'm like, you know, what's he gonna change about his food to make it so that way he can sell more? He changes nothing. He just makes more of it. So stupid, but I still love it. Still very entertaining anime. I would recommend it.
I can at least appreciate throughout the absurdity that there is some kernels of truth in there. Like the whole strategy behind a buffet eating like that was logical because of having to the food will possibly set out for God knows how long, so it has to be able to withstand sitting out and
Yeah.
still be good.
But then he just ignores that. He does what shonen anime protagonists do, and they just ignore a rule that doesn't apply to them.
And then they win because they outsmart the losing strategy.
Oh, I love
The
that.
equivalent of like Luffy or Goku, where they're like, "Don't punch the guy. I'm gonna punch the guy."
but harder.
He punched the guy. I was like, oh, but he punched the guy good enough to work, though.
It's not working. Hold on, I'm gonna try punching him harder. Oh my god, it worked!
How about I power up? Oh, wow, that worked.
Oh, damn. Why didn't we think of that?
Yeah. So I wanted to bring up a side tangent of the importance of food in animes that aren't food animes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is kind of a general life thing because, we're human beings, we need food to live and sustain, so food is understandably important.
It's been part of every culture for, infinite amount of time, more or less.
But I enjoy the times that food is brought up in animes because it rarely is an experience that's alone unless it's like specifically an anime about like just a singular character. They always bring it up, especially in like Japan-centric ones. It's always about like group or at least a partnered experience. And just, I feel Japan has a very interesting grasp of the importance of food and being together when eating food.
They do to a fault, I will say, because
Their whole cult, like their culture is like based around, like they have like so many like etiquette and stuff, like just about
like how Japanese men have to go out with their coworkers to drink beer and eat food like pretty regularly, or else you're kind of ostracized from the group in a way.
Yeah.
Talking about that is giving me almost PTSD flashbacks to the beginning of Lucky Star, where they spend an absurd amount of time talking about how to eat a chocolate cornet. I've had a hard time recommending that anime to people because of that goddamn scene.
But like I enjoy in non-food animes when food is somehow a driver to something. I think it'd be something simple to like it's a date, or it'd be something like as weirdly extreme in the opposite direction as like Part 4 of JoJo. For Part 4 of JoJo is a slice of life, but we have an entire episode devoted to a restaurant and its food. Amazing looking food, even though with how simple a lot of it is, because I think it was what, salad, pasta, water, and something else.
Oh, let's go eat Italian food. I don't know why I was thinking of Part 2. I was like, are you talking about the fucking black spaghetti? Like,
I also really like. I mean, it's not like entirely related, but I just like the setting of like restaurants and stuff. Like, two of my favorite animes of all time is Working and Is the Order of Rabbit. Both take place primarily around a restaurant, despite having nothing to do with food.
Yeah. I also now realized that food was also kind of the downfall of Akira in Part 4 too.
yeah.
That's how he got found out.
He really wanted that sandwich.
Yeah.
The Bleach uses there's a character who made like this candy that has like artificial souls in it and shit, and so that's really relevant to the story, and it's a very interesting way of doing it, because they need to have the characters be able to eat this, like they need a way for the characters to get out of their bodies, so they just like pop a piece of candy in their mouth and their soul just leaves their body.
I didn't even think about it. Dragon Ball is also an interesting example of using food to a benefit. Freaking sensu beans.
Yeah.
Sensu bean. Oh, yeah, much better.
I mean, One Piece literally had an arc focused around the chef character, where they went to an island that was literally made out of food.
I mean, literally, you get powers in One Piece from food.
There's a scene in that arc where Luffy and Brook are damaged from battle, and then like they just both drink milk, and they're both like Luffy's wounds heal, and Brook just grows bones back. And then there's just a guy watching it happen. He's like, "What the heck?"
Oh, One
His
Piece
bones
for
are literally fixing themselves. I was like, God, I love this show. It's so goddamn much.
Actually, I know like this whole there's a small thing in food is somehow also a small driver in Dorohedoro. It's pretty much that show breaks down to two food things. It is gyoza versus mushrooms.
I don't know what gyoza is.
Gyoza is basically pork meat pot stickers, for easy layman terms.
For white people terms.
Yeah, I said layman.
I'm not lame.
Yeah, I mean, white people are pretty lame.
It's like the only other food that gets brought up in that show is pie, and I don't even think you can count turkey because what turkey makes is not actual food. It's a human doll that is technically made from food.
Oh yeah. I know what
That's
you're
a
talking
whole,
about.
That magic is weird. But like the whole like breakdown of food in that show is gyoza and mushrooms, and yeah, somehow those are two small driving forces in that show at certain points. Then pie does get brought up too.
I don't want to talk about. I mean, I hate talking about. I hate talking about One Piece all the time, but I do think like. I mean, there's specifically a video on YouTube. I didn't watch it, even though I really wanted to. It's called "The Importance of Food of One Piece," and One Piece is the only show that has made me like tear up multiple times just of scenes of people people eating food when they're like super hungry.
Oh, I
like
know what you're talking about.
Like they've done it like 3 times, and it makes me tear up every time of a starving character eating food for the first time in a while. It's just always so good. They also give like weird rules to certain like food related devil fruits. Like there's a guy who can turn anything into food, but the food tastes bad. And then there's a girl who can create balls of mochi, but they don't sustain, like they're not sustainable, or whatever, however you pronounce that.
Is there a guy that can turn into mochi?
Yes, that's Katakuri. He could turn into mochi, but directly in the arc after that, they introduce a girl who can create mochi balls.
Okay, I'm glad I'm not crazy then, because I'm like, I thought that was a dude.
It's just very weird that they introduced 2 characters with mochi-related devil fruits, like, side by side.
Yeah, that's a bit weird.
Yeah, but the anime make me fucking cry with scenes of characters eating food. Like, food is super important in that show.
So, what would you say is the most iconic food in anime?
Oh, an anime?
Yeah.
I would say for America, I think it's cartoon steaks, but
I mean, if you want to go like, I feel like iconic in a way, just because but even though it's not like really a thing you ever see, is like the whole like meat with the bone going all the way through it on the bone meat. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
if I had to for anime, I feel like it's either gonna be
Onigiri, definitely.
Yeah.
onigiri? Oh, sushi.
Balls.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's
No,
yeah.
Jelly donuts.
I was either gonna say it was either gonna be sushi or it was gonna be the fried chicken, like the little nuggety looking fried chicken.
It's the chip that Light Yagami eats in Death Note.
Take a potato chip.
I just say with watching a lot of these Japanese food things, I do want one of those little small portable grills that they just take, that some characters take everywhere with them.
Yeah, it's just a bucket.
Yeah, it's just a bucket with a curved like domed grate on it. I'm just like, I want this now.
I love that. I will say, Japan has some of the most interesting cooking like items. Like they have that weird, it's like a thing of bamboo with like a pipe and shit like hanging over a fire. It's a pot of some sorts, but it's just like the way that it looks is so interesting, and it's used for cooking certain foods.
I love their thing for woks, which is it's just a big metal thing with a hole with a fire directly over top of it that the wok sits in, and it's just them constantly flipping the wok up and down just to control the heat.
I would say between them and India, they probably have two of the most insane food like concepts where you need like specific things to make random foods.
I love finding like probably one of my favorite things is like relaxing is watching Japanese street food YouTube videos. Like no sound aside from them just like making the food. Like that is some of the most relaxing and hunger inducing things I've ever seen. Because some of just the crazy things that they need to make some of these, like it's just like normally just like a big metal mold, but it's like for a highly specific thing. Like I think egg bread is one of the ones I watched. It's just, it always looks delicious, and I love that. Like watching Japanese food is, I love that seeing an anime isn't always too far off from what it looks like in real life. Like, yeah, there's American food that can do that too, but I feel like the time and care that animation studios sometimes take with food is like they do their homework and it looks better than the real thing, but still it looks like the real thing at times. And I just love how close they get, or how blurred that line is sometimes.
I wonder if this has, because like with Japanese culture, the people usually fixate on one thing and then they dedicate like their entire life to it. You know, like mangaka artists, that's all that they'll do until they die. You know, like certain chefs, they do the same thing. Like for some reason that culture is very like oriented on like, hey, I'm good at one thing, so that's all that I'm ever going to do.
It continues along, but we should keep moving. We still got stuff.
Yeah.
I say, I honestly think that with my selection, I think I'm done with my selection. So you go ahead.
I wanted to talk about that one anime. I said that like my answer to that one question Anthony asked was yes and no, and that's the a personal like all favorite anime of mine. Probably top 5, top 3 even. I don't even know how to pronounce that. Yumero Patissier, dream colored pastry chef. It's the first time I'm reading that translation. It is an anime I love. It's about this girl who just like really loves sweets, and then like she sneaks off to like a cake buffet, and then like ends up impressing this like guy, and the guy's like, hey, I have this pastry, this like school where people can learn how to be pastry chefs, like do you want to go there? And she's like, yeah. So then she goes there, which turns out to be this like super prestigious school, and then that guy is like a super world famous like French chef. So like all the eyes are like instantly on her, and then because of that, she gets put in the group of these like the 3 like most talented boys in that grade. But it turns out, she doesn't know anything about cooking pastries. She's like a complete and utter amateur. So she's worried about like holding them back and stuff. And then she ends up getting help from a fairy.
Oh.
Vanilla. Yeah, each of the characters have a fairy that are all like, named after like foods and stuff. It's like vanilla, caramel, chocolate, and cafe.
Escalated a little bit.
Yeah. I love this. I love this anime. Like it is. I feel like what I love about it so much is that it's a kids anime, so it's like it has very like lighthearted kid energy to it, and it's just like makes it just so much that much more adorable. Complete the fact that it's also a shoujo anime, and then it's just that like this is, and the reason why like my whole thing with the yes and no is like I never wanted to make something from this anime, but this anime made me want to pursue the specific career path. I haven't made any progress towards that, but this anime did inspire me to want to actually become a pastry chef.
Well, you want to know the fact that I have an oven again? I'm gonna help you with that.
Like I don't, and like I don't know what inspired me so much about this, how good this anime was. Also, this anime has 50 episodes, and that's only the first season. There's a 13 episode sequel.
Oh, I was afraid you were gonna say there's 13 seasons. Like, oh no.
Yeah, and then, like it's just really cute. But also, what I love about it is that every episode ends with like a live action thing of like them showing off real stuff, like live action footage of like them going to like places where they make stuff and showing off recipes and such.
Yeah, I like when they do that. I like when they have the recipe or
Yeah.
someone making the recipe on the end of the episode.
It's very similar to like the some of the endings of Japanese food from another world, or that one random episode of Shimameda where they teach you how to make a sex toy.
I love that.
Always gets me. Yeah, but yeah, I also really love all the characters, the opening and ending, absolute bangers. The sequel is all right. I wasn't super into the sequel mostly because like they aged up the characters a bit. It's like set in a couple years in the future, and they kind of wrote two of the main characters out of the story. Like they're just like background characters now. Like they barely appear, and they just replaced them with like two other characters.
It's kind of weird.
Though one of the characters is awesome because he's this guy named Johnny McBeal who makes donuts.
All right, that's pretty sick. I'm not gonna lie.
Like, because
That's
the
really
character, yeah, some of the characters have like specialties. Like, the main group was like the guy who makes chocolate, the guy who makes Japanese sweets, and then the guy who can make like rose art really well. But in the second season, Johnny McBeal, he's just like, yo, I make donuts. And I respect that. Just like guy who can make donuts real good.
Respect the hustle.
Yeah, like I said, it's one of my favorite animes. If someone can sit through a 50-minute, not 50-minute, a 50 episode long kid anime, like anime marketed towards female like little girls about cooking pastries, I'd recommend it because this anime is so good.
All right. Do you have any others you'd like to talk about?
Yeah, I'm just gonna blow through some of these. A pretty good one. I wanted to mention this because a lot of things with like food animes is that like they have food in them, but they don't really like teach you anything.
Yeah.
So this anime, and I would almost recommend this to Jared in a way. I'm not sure if he's entirely interested on this subject in particular, but it's an anime called Dagashikashi, which is it's about like this guy who helps run his like in the like country town. He runs like the candy store.
Mm-hmm.
And the daughter of this like conglomerate candy company comes into town, and then like every episode, like the anime is mostly focused on those two characters, but there's other characters. But like the whole thing is about candy. Like they talk about candy, they teach you about candy in like every episode. Like they talk about real candy, and like it's actually like entertaining, but also like semi-educational about like candy you've probably never heard of, because Japanese candy is actually pretty weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got some shit in there.
I just remembered that there was one more show I want to talk about because it's everything that they made so far that I saw, I know I could make and I want to make, which is funny because it's the Cooking with Valkyries. It's the second episode, and it's literally the characters making pizza toast. The good old za toast.
Alright, I can fuck with some za toast.
She literally wakes up from a dream, or not a dream, but like a memory dream that she had. I don't know who this character was, because this is a spin-off of another show that I don't know what's going on. So some characters I'm like, I don't know who this is, but she's just like, I want to go make pizza toast now. So she goes to the store, gets everything, starts making it, and she's just having like small flashbacks to like this person helping her make it when she was like a kid. So it's like, she's like, okay, well, I don't have to cut these, but she's like, but I do have to cut the onion. And she's like, goes back to a flashback about, he's like, I have a trick for cutting onions. Just close your eyes while cutting it. My finger! She's like, yeah, he always was pretty dumb. And then she's like, yes, he's not here. I can put all this extra cheese on it. He's like, because the flashback is like, yeah, cheese is pretty hard to come by, so we gotta save this for the other meals. She's like, but I want cheese on it.
I want cheese.
Great,
Like,
good.
I was gonna say, between that, there's an episode where they just make this crazy looking stew. There's one where this lady's just making basic ramen with Spam. I learned that Japanese people kind of like Spam. Spam has been brought up in at least a decent amount of the cooking animes I kind of came across.
Yeah, apparently if you live in the middle of fucking nowhere on some kind of island, Spam is pretty damn good.
Yeah, I was like, I do like Spam. I have not had it for at least 3 years, but
Like a
I
couple
do.
days.
What?
A couple days ago.
Yeah. I've had turkey Spam, and that was actually good.
Do you know what I want, like, really badly? This
Spam
is
sandwich.
not food wise, just an anime concept. I want like somebody who is utterly terrible at cooking, but they do it anyways. Like I'm talking like K's Kitchen level.
I was
of
gonna say
bad.
you just want K's Kitchen, the anime. Ha, people.
Reminds me when Luffy wastes all of their food because he was like, I'll make food for everybody because since Sanji's gone. And he uses all of their supply of food to make one terrible meal.
Does Brook not eat?
He eats. He likes eating. I don't think he has to.
Just goes right through him. Haha.
He likes milk because skeleton like milk because it's good for bones.
Calcium. Yeah, but like everything I came across in so far, I got through like halfway through the first season, but everything in Cooking with Valkyries, I was like, I could go make this. Like they made a stew, I'm like, I could just go make this, and it seems really good. I'm hungry now. I want bread.
Give me carb.
Give carbs.
Yeah. Speaking of carbs, I got this is another anime I wanted to talk about. There were two that I just break kayfabe for the third time this episode. I wanted to pitch to Anthony Jarrett specifically an episode about food because there were two animes I wanted to talk about, and that was the Yamanero Patissiere and this anime, Miss Koizumi Loves Ramen, or Ramen Daisuki Koizumi-san. I love this anime because it is so like hilariously it's like so dumb because and I want more animes like this because the only three animes I can think of that are like this, Honda-kun, Haven't You Heard I'm Sakamoto, and this anime where it's some like character who just solves other people's like problems just by being really cool.
All right.
And like, because the anime is it's about this girl who's like really, she's really popular because she's really smart and beautiful and stuff, but it turns out secretly she's like crazy into ramen. Every day after school she goes to a different ramen place and eats ramen, and then like, and it's like less focused on her specifically and more focused on like just like one-off characters going through something that ends up getting solved just by like eating ramen either with her or near her. they're like, whoa, that's a beautiful girl, and whoa, she's eating like all that ramen. Like that's crazy. Like my emotional problems have been solved.
Oh,
This is a personal nitpick. I don't like those fucking weird ass spoons that they have in Japan.
you don't like noodle spoons?
I'm not a huge fan. Because I went to like a pho place or a faux place, however the hell you pronounce it, and I had to use one of those. I was not a fan.
You're not a fan of soup spoons?
Not entirely. I imagine if I had more practice with them, it's like same thing with like chopsticks. It took me a while to get good at them.
I've used it once because I went to Wasabi Grill and I had mushroom soup, and I very coincidentally earlier that day, without even knowledge that I was going to there, I watched a video about table etiquette in Japan. I was like, hey, I can use that table etiquette, and I went full weeaboo and actually Japanese table etiquette at a fucking Japanese chain restaurant. But I was like, I don't even like mushrooms, but then like I was like, it's proper. I'll at least try the mushroom soup, and I liked it. Like the mushroom soup, because the etiquette's like you hold it with one hand, and then you use the little weird soup spoon thing.
Is making noise when eating, is that actual like proper etiquette? Does that show that you enjoy? Because I've heard that before, but I don't know how true that is.
No, I wouldn't know that. I mean, I don't remember that etiquette video very well.
One thing I always went back to, I think, was seasoning your own food.
Is that really a thing?
I think that was an issue with one.
Like they don't like it, or they like...
Some things I've heard it was insulting to the chef, but like, I do not take my bad memory. Take it with a grain of salt. No pun intended, but...
I have a turbo weeb friend. I need to message him and ask him some questions.
Man,
It's not one of us.
I'm surprised you know someone who outweaves me. I almost feel ashamed. I've been usurped from my throne.
Yeah, he's on that level where he speaks a bit of Japanese. Like enough where I would take him to Japan to translate some shit for me.
He just looks at you as you get there. I have no clue what to talk about, mate.
Alright, listen, so I lied about everything.
They're either asking you your name or they're threatening to kill you. I don't know. See how this next move plays out. If they pull a gun, I think we know which answer it is.
Just like last bit of ramen Daisuke Koizumi-san is just like I'd recommend it just because of how funny, like it was like really funny, especially one of the main reoccurring characters being this girl who's absolutely obsessed with becoming friends with Koizumi, even though Koizumi just really does not like her. It's funny because Koizumi becomes friends with that girl's other two friends before she becomes friends with her. like I think there's at a point where that girl realizes that her two friends are friends with Koizumi before she was able to do it, and she just starts crying. It's like I can't believe you guys beat me. And then just last thing I want to talk about, honorable mention to because we don't talk about manga that hasn't been adapted yet. So I want to give a fun honorable mention to Gal Gohan, which is a fun little kind of romance and manga about it's not even categorized as romance on my anime list. Weird, but it's about this like this gal who's really into her like home economics teacher, so she joins his kind of failing cooking club, which ends up leading to a kind of a funny reoccurring joke where the reason why he can't get more people into his club now is because everybody's scared of her specifically.
Love that.
But it's really fun. It's really fun. It's like just this Garu who has who's just so ridiculously bad at cooking, but she does it because she wants to like make food for him, even though he's the one teaching her how to make the food. So I'd like to see it get adapted. It'd make a nice little 12 episode thing.
Miniseries, yeah. I want more anime about fucking what the hell are they called? Gaukos?
Yeah, garus or gals.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love them. They're like one of my favorite like little character things. They tend to be like very like bubbly.
Yeah, fucking
Like,
so-
Gauko-chan's a
Yeah.
classic. Yeah, link the best guy ever video. in the description.
yeah, just go watch it.
I remember the first time. I know I know I'm getting off topic with this, but we do this all the time. I remember the first time I experienced a Gyaru character was from an anime called Nyankoi, and it was so like jarring because I was like, wow, that's a really weird thing. Though then again, Nyankoi did go full in with it. Like, I don't think I've seen any other anime go full, like, not even like Gyaru or Gal, like the whole Ganguro culture of like, this girl was like almost like blackface with how like
Oh,
heavy her
jeez.
makeup was.
Yeah, because they go heavy with
I wonder if I
like,
can find a
spray
picture.
cans and shit.
Yeah, like I've only ever seen that one, and my first exposure to that subculture was the absurdist end goal of it, rather than like the middle ground that you see from like My Girlfriend the Garu or Gauko-chan and all that. Yeah, but Gauko-han's good. It's got good art, cute girl, semi-interesting male protagonist. And in this anime landscape, semi-interesting is as most you can hope for.
Yeah, honestly. Alright, well, should we wrap it up? We're about at the 2-hour mark. Anything else you want to say?
Stay hungry, boys.
Please go make food for yourself. I don't care what it is. Throw out the frozen pizza. Don't do that. Save your money. Keep the frozen pizza. But go make yourself something.
Make some za.
It makes me feel sad. I literally eat the same thing for lunch every single day for like 9 months.
I know that life.
Because it's a lot easier for me to just buy a bag of buffalo chicken at Aldi and just microwave it at lunch every single day.
Mix it up every now and then, folks. It's something
No.
you learn.
Now, you people listening, do take that advice. But Anthony, don't you tell me what to do ever again.
Alright, well, thank you for joining us. You can find links to everything in Link Dump, along with our Twitters and other social medias if you feel like following us. As always, we post twice a month, and we'll occasionally have a special episode, so be sure to stick around for that. We have a bit of a special episode coming up next, as long as everything's going to schedule, which it should be. We're going to be doing a gift exchange one, where we give each other anime to watch, so that'll be definitely a interesting one to record. So we're going to be taking a short break, not for you, but for us, and then we're going to be back to record that. So, as always, have a good day.
Bye, Internet.
Eat food. Don't die.
Eat pan.
No, not that.
Eat this.
No, not that.